What's up, everybody? I hope you're well. 10,000 subscribers. This is crazy, absolutely crazy. Honestly, it amazes me how you people enjoy watching me rambling about music and such. I don't get it, but as long as you're happy. So yeah, thank you very much to everybody who's recently subscribed to the channel and everyone who's been here since the beginning. I'm super grateful for this, and I thought it would be fun to celebrate by giving away 2 free copies of my course 20th Century Orchestral Writing that I recently released in collaboration with Master the Score. By the way, you should go and subscribe to their channel as well, as they often share clips from the courses, and they're great. And if you want to participate to the giveaway, all you have to do is click on the first link that you'll find in the description and enter your email address, and you'll be notified if you win. So I said I would do a little Ask Me Anything kind of video, and last week I made a post in the community tab asking you whether you guys had questions, and yeah, let's go for it. Assuming you have the ability to go back in time, if you could become the student of any composer, alive or dead, who would it be and why? What would you want to learn from them, and what would you ask them? Great question. And I think I would probably do anything to kind of sit beside John Williams, and watch him work on some music. I wouldn't necessarily want him to teach me a class or something like that. But yeah, just basically watch him compose something. I've studied a lot of his music in the past, and I think being able to kind of watching him play would consolidate a lot of that information, just watching him, how he comes up with a theme and how he develops it, and maybe just ask him a couple of questions, whether he thinks in terms of harmony and theory, or is his composing process is more based on instinct and normal kinds of stuff. But yeah, my answer would be John Williams, hands down. I didn't even have to think about this answer, because that would be like a dream come true, and it's never gonna happen because it doesn't do it for anybody. But yeah, it is what it is. So next question, Alvaro Rodriguez: do you think traditional music education is obsolete, and why? Do you think there's a bubble of aspiring composers oversaturating the market? What's the importance of luck in having a career as a media composer beyond everything that's actually under our control? Okay, so I'm gonna try and be brief, because we could talk forever on these topics. So starting on the music schools, I don't think is obsolete. I'm self-taught. I did go to music school, but I studied guitar, and I'm self-taught when it comes to composition and orchestration. And I do not think that going to music school is ever going to be obsolete. And that's not necessarily due to the information you're going to get from a music school or another, which is always going to be the same, right? You could learn the very same things on your own. You can get the very same information by buying books, and there are alternative sources of educations for sure. But what you really get from a music school that is invaluable, I think, and you're not gonna get anywhere else, is the experience and being able to meet other musicians and being able to meet other people. And that's, to me, invaluable. What music school gave me more than anything else was the opportunity to learn from other musicians and make friends and play with other people and get to know their tastes and kind of discover new things in music. I don't even know if I would be a composer today if it wasn't for music school, because it kind of widened my overall view of music, and I got to discover many other things that I don't know I would have discovered on my own. Maybe I would have, maybe not, who knows. But that's where I think music school is important. And as for the other questions, do you think there's a bubble of aspiring composers oversaturating the market, and the importance of luck? I agree that the market is oversaturated, but I also feel like there is a bubble for aspiring composers. And I do consider myself an aspiring composer as well. You know, I'm not well established by any means, but despite of the state of things, I feel like, you know, these modern tools that we have at our disposals, you know, like sample libraries and these super powerful computers, and being able to market yourself through the means of social media and YouTube, and, you know, all these things are great and are things that can maximize your opportunity to kind of be noticed by somebody and to find your own niche. That is if you work hard enough. And we now get to the second half of the question, that was whether luck is important. I don't know. No, dear. I don't think luck is important. I feel like you have to work your ass off, you know. If you really want to make it, it's important that you put the work in, and if you persevere, it's going to pay off. You know, you'll have to create your own luck and put yourself into situations that will make you more lucky, if you know what I mean, right? So next one. Well done, Mattia, you deserve it. Thank you. How do you orchestrate clusters? Do you just pick crunchy chromatic tones and call it a day? Or is there more of a method? I mean, I kind of pick crunchy chromatic tones and call it a day, to be honest. But like, if I were to, now that you make me think about this, I kind of like to split the cluster between sections. So let's say I'm doing something on woodwinds, right? Like on flutes and clarinets. I would kind of have them interlocking, right? Have, you know, the flutes holding, you know, maybe the top note, and then skip one and give that to the clarinet, and then have the flutes again, and on the bottom the clarinets again. And that's just so that is going to feel a little bit lighter, because you have a wider interval being taken by each individual section, right? But the end result is the same chord. Or similarly, I would do maybe, I don't know, let's say I'm orchestrating a C major 7 chord between strings and brass, strings and horns, something like that. I would probably just have the strings sitting on that C major chord, just the triad, and have the French horns, maybe like a solo French horn on a B. And that's the effect of creating clarity between the sections and a little bit more separation. Next question by Richard Millington. In your view, which skills, areas of knowledge are the most important for newer composers to master? I feel like the most important skill for, you know, not just new composers, but musicians and composers in general, is being able to have a good ear. I feel like probably most people expected me to say theory or wanted me to say theory, but I honestly think it's quite overrated. I think it's great, you know, to have that kind of knowledge and being able to justify what you do. But in general, you know, being able to play and write what you have in your head is going to speed things up considerably in the long run, and is going to help you out a great deal in finding your own voice. I mean, not necessarily finding your own voice, but bringing out your own voice. So yeah, having a good ear for music is very helpful, and maybe a good taste for music as well. Now we have Bara asking 2 questions. I don't know if I asked this before, but how do you write more detailed string lines? Also, do you have any tips to find composing and scoring gigs? I'm gonna answer the second question first, because it's a little bit easier, as I partially, you know, kind of covered that earlier in the video as well. You know, I should be the last person giving people, you know, work advice, but I think it's important to kind of start building up an internet persona, yeah, especially for these days, and eventually kind of work will come to you. You know, the vast majority of the work I get, not necessarily film scoring, but you know, composing related stuff like orchestration, arranging, these sorts of things, comes like from YouTube itself, or being recommended to some other guy by people who I met on YouTube. Did it make sense? I don't know if that made sense, but yeah, it's a bit of a grind, don't get me wrong, and it does take some time before it kind of eventually kicks off. You can reach out to directors or producers yourself, But from my experience, it just doesn't work. Maybe I'm not doing the research right. I know people who can actually do this effectively. That never worked for me. But yeah, building an online persona is what seems to work for me. There are more traditional kind of paths, like, you know, trying to seek for assistant work and things of that sort, which is, if it's your thing, go for it. But I don't necessarily feel like in these modern times there is necessarily a standardized path that you have to follow rigidly. You can try some things out, and if they don't work, reevaluate and try a different way. And for the first part of your question, how to write more detailed string lines, not just melody and chords. I feel like melody and chords are just fine, to be honest. Like, the vast majority of my music is pretty much melody and chords. If you're doing something for strings, you can go into a little bit more detail, maybe by, I don't know, just like adding some harmony parts. Like, for example, let's say you have the melody on violin 1, you can kind of harmonize it on violin 2 and violas and have some of the voices moving in contrary motion, for example. That can create a little bit more complexity, and maybe have on cellos a second voice that kind of differs from what you already have on the rest of the section, and having the double basses taking the bass. But it doesn't have to be this way, you know. Every time you have a different part is going to distract from the lead. So I generally try to keep things as simple as I can. You mentioned James Horner. I would advise getting some scores here if you can, and try to figure it out on your own. Don't listen to what I say. I'm just gonna make things more complicated for you, and by putting my own twist to it. I think the best way to learn any kind of music is to kind of figure it out on your own. And if you can get some scores that you can check against, that's going to be the best teacher. Now, next question. Have you heard any of the Zelda Age of Calamity soundtrack? And if so, do you have any advice for composing and mixing in that style? The music is very epic, but was recorded live, which made it stand out to me. Honestly, I've never listened to it. Let me check this out. I mean, like, I don't know. I should listen to it in more detail, but most of it seems to be based off an ostinato, which is a super common, you know, compositional device that you can find in lots and lots of genres of music today, not just media music or video game music. And in terms of the mixing, nothing stands out as particularly original to me in general. And I don't mean this as a negative note. It doesn't seem to me like the soundtrack has anything particular that stands out, but as you say, maybe it's because it was recorded live. To my ears, it kind of sounds like general orchestral music you find in video games. Max Faust Composer. I wanted to ask, you never seem to be stuck when you write. Oh boy, you don't know. How do you unstuck yourself if it ever happens? I mean, beyond the evergreen advice of taking a break and taking a walk, etc. Yeah, of course I do get stuck, like anybody else. You know, I do actually struggle with writing music, and writing music is hard. You know, it's hard for myself as well, believe it or not. I don't know if I have anything beyond the evergreen advice of taking a walk or taking a break. Maybe, like, it depends on what you're working on. Like, if you're working on a film score, or if you're working with a director, you can stop and ask for advice from them. You know, ask for feedback, and maybe talk about the movie or the story or the character a little bit more. And oftentimes you'll get your answers just from that, just by understanding the story a little bit better, which is probably your best option, because if you're not really sure on what you should be doing, your music is probably going to be rejected anyway. You know what I mean? But beside working with a director, which I understand may not be your case, you know, something as simple as taking a break or going for a walk. I know, but that often helps. I mean, if I decide I'm going to take a break or go for a walk, I'm going to take my phone with myself and kind of start singing some stuff into it and try a whole bunch of different ideas. And oftentimes these ideas, they do actually end up being, you know, the final thing. So I'm not sure if I answered you, but that's what I do, and I do get stuck all the time. In my case, I always end up being stuck because of some sort of weird muscle memory thing that kind of keeps me from being original. So deciding to go for a walk kind of breaks the pattern, right? Because I'm not necessarily limited by playing the very same thing over and over on the piano, and I can be more original. Or maybe something as simple as trying, if you can play other instruments as well, trying to grab a guitar or a bass or whatever instrument you play, and step away from your DAW or piano and try things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. And finally, we have the last question by my good friend Zach ID. You should go and subscribe to his channel if you're not already. What's the most embarrassing thing you've done that you're willing to share on camera? Also, congrats. I can't give you my real one, man. I'll tell you later, though. I promise you. I mean, like, I can tell you something kind of funny that happened back in uni. So change of clothes, is daytime. I'm recording this the day after because I just remembered a way better story. Basically, before moving to London, I was doing a degree in art back in my hometown in Italy, and my best mate's name was Matteo Chiappetta. So basically his name is very similar to mine, and our surnames, so like Chiappa for me and Chiappetta for him, they mean, I just want to say cheek, like double E, not like the chicken. Also, not the face one, that wouldn't be too bad, it's the backside one. And of course, growing up with a surname like that was absolutely atrocious, and I was bullied many times just because of it, so you kind of get used to it after a while. But yeah, that was such a coincidence, you know, finding a classmate not only with a surname that is very similar to mine, but also the name too, because his name is Matteo. So basically before class, the professor would do like a register every time, calling out names and such. And just, you know, bear in mind that this is like the first day of uni. So basically the professor goes like, Mattia Chiappa, and I raise my hand, and everybody in the class is already giggling a little bit because, you know, it's kind of funny. But then he goes, Matteo Chiappetta, and just right next to me, this guy like raises his hand, and everybody at this point starts laughing. The professor as well, like the professor turns around because he actually thinks it's a joke and somebody pranked him. You know, I don't know if it's embarrassing, but it's kind of funny. So there you go. Now you know what my surname means. I believe that was everything, guys. Once again, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. You can use the link in the description to participate to the giveaway. And as always, special thanks to all my patrons. You know, without them, none of this would have been possible. So thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.